So I haven't been able to get my hands on an Aston Martin DBX press card to review. No idea why, but anyways, there's this blue one by my house. It's a 707 and it literally never moves. It's almost like they don't want it or something like that. But anyways, I made this paper cutout of Daniel Craig's face, and it's so funny whenever I put it on my face like this, I look like James Bond with the shiesty, like I'm about to go rob someone. It's pretty funny. Anyways, enjoy this review of the Aston Martin DBX 707. All right, I've got to make this video quick. I don't have a ton of time with this thing, but I must emphasize that this has always been the SUV that I've never been able to test out. I've driven Purosangue, every form of Urus, the SE, the Performante, the standard version. I've driven the Cayenne Turbo. I've driven the Trackhawk. I mean, if you want to even count the Escalade V, I've spent some time in that car as well. This has always been that car I've been super curious about, but never really able to test out. And as far as super SUVs go, this is really the one that no one ever really talks about. And it's strange because this is the most powerful one without hybridization that you can buy. We're talking 700 horsepower. That's crazy. And after getting to finally drive this thing, it now makes even less sense why this car isn't talked about more, or isn't kind of seen as the king of performance SUVs, because I gotta say, after driving Purosangue, after driving Urus, after driving the Cayenne Turbo e-Hybrid, I think this SUV, the 707 specifically, and in its refresh form with the new technology, cements itself as the best overall package for a super SUV. Now, don't get me wrong, this thing is outrageously expensive. This car that I'm driving right here with options is just a little bit over $350,000. That is no small sum, and that effectively puts this in high-end Bentayga and Purosangue territory. You're pretty much just barely outpricing the Urus at that point. You've got an outrageous use of carbon fiber, tons of bespoke leather and stitching options, and then the paint goes for an outrageous sum of money. But I gotta say, when it all comes together, man, yeah, this one is good. Let's dig into it. So the engine in this car, it's using the 4-liter twin-turbo V8 found in many other Mercedes. This is the Mercedes AMG motor that Aston Martin uses as the foundation for this engine, and they've done a lot of revisions as far as the way they've tuned the car. It doesn't feel like a completely different engine, but it definitely separates itself as far as characteristics from the AMGs in a handful of areas. One of the main things I've noticed is that this engine is pretty lag-free compared to some applications of the 4-liter V8 I've seen in other AMGs. When you're in the right gear, you're not waiting for the car to spool up, and then once it does, you can do the quarter mile as fast as the Urus SE, which has 100 more horsepower than this thing, and that's because it's just a lot lighter, and it also just doesn't have that kind of bloated feeling that a lot of hybridized super SUVs do. And yeah, it still has less horsepower on paper than the Ferrari Purosangue, but as much as I love that NAV12 and the way it sounds and the engine characteristics, it's just NA, and so it's never gonna feel as fast as a turbocharged motor, especially in 0 to 60 applications. But as opposed to just talking about the speed, I should probably show you, right? We should probably do a 0 to 60. That's like something I'm known to do on this channel. We should probably do something like that to really get an idea of how fast this thing really is. All right, sorry, it's kind of dark. It's early in the morning. So it's 9 a.m., about 70 degrees, but feeling very hot. And we are on Pirelli P0 tires. I think we should probably be able to clock a sub 4 for sure. We are close to a full tank of gas, so that's definitely going to slow us down a bit, but not too much. But the best time I've seen on this car is a 3.1 second 0 to 60, which is probably on a fully prepped surface and whatnot. So I'm expecting maybe like a 3.4, 3.5, something like that. But either way, that's still really quick for an SUV of this kind with no hybridization. So let's see what we do. Woo! So that was 0 to 60 in 3.75 seconds without 1 foot rollout, obviously. I want to see if we can do a little bit of a better time. I did have ESP off, or in track mode, so maybe turning it back on might help, maybe it won't. Let's give this another go. Less wheel slip that time? Yeah. Yeah. All right, that was definitely a much better time. All right, so that was 0 to 60 in 3.41. Noticeably better time. I think we just need to get the tires a little bit warmer. I'm gonna run this back one more time just to see if it's possible to get an even better time. But 3.41 on an unprepped surface, I think that might make this our quickest non-hybridized gas-powered SUV, and lines up exactly with what we got with the Lamborghini Urus SE on a fully prepped surface. So most ideal conditions outside of it being really hot on that day. We were clocking around 3.4s to 3.5s. I have to look at the exact time, but I think this might be our new gas-powered 0 to 60 king for SUVs. Not bad. So this car drives amazingly, but it also looks pretty killer. I'm not crazy about the catfish grill mouth thing that's even larger with the 707 version of this car, but it does stand out, and it's definitely caught a lot more eyes on the road than really any other performance SUV that I've driven, maybe minus the Puro Sangue, because the Urus at this point is kind of regular traffic if you live in an area where people have money. You kind of will see a Urus every week if you live in a major city. This is not something you see every week. And then this car also happens to have like nearly 30 grand worth of carbon fiber options, so you're firstly gonna notice that on the hood here with these hood vents in carbon. The front lip is in carbon. You have these side blades very similar to the Vanquish in carbon. You have not really a side skirt situation, but these also side panels in carbon on the side of the car. Of course, carbon ceramic brakes, and then you get to the rear of the car, and that's where this thing really stands out. In my opinion, the rear of this car is really what gives this car the presence and the wow factor, particularly this duckbill shaped fin on the edge here that just really makes it stand out, and then this wing up top, I think that might be carbon fiber actually. But then the moneymaker is absolutely this massive carbon diffuser. This has to be like maybe probably like 5-6 grand just in carbon. The design alone is so sick, so sick. I love the way this looks, and then obviously the quad tailpipes. The rear of this car is really what gets it for me. You have actual real vents right here. These aren't fake. These are real vents. Like, everything feels functional, purposeful, and also still aesthetically pleasing. So I guess my only real gripe design-wise is that the car just sits really, really high, and there's no real way to squat the car unlike other air suspension powered performance SUVs, and so I wish there was a way to at least have it squatted when it's parked, because man, that would look so, so good. But other than that, I mean, honestly, it's damn near a 10 out of 10 design-wise, this car, just because of the crazy amount of carbon fiber, the diffuser, the duckbill, trunk lid, everything about it. The overall shape is just so, so good. There's only a handful of cars that you get onto an on-ramp and punch it and then feel like, wow, this is like outrageously fast. And a lot of super SUVs, while they have the power, don't necessarily give you that wow factor, especially after you've driven a handful of quick ones. But this one, unlike the DB12 that didn't really feel standout fast in its GT category, the DBX arguably feels like the fastest feeling SUV I've ever driven. I know it technically isn't on paper, and especially when you're including electric SUVs, but in practice, this just has the most thrilling amount of speed and just absolutely reaches numbers you didn't think you would be able to, an amount of time you didn't think you'd be able to in a car like this. When it comes to sporty performance SUVs, the 707 is hitting all of those check marks we're looking for. We firstly got a really lively active transfer case for the all-wheel drive system that's shifting power distribution to the front and rear wheels based on the driving conditions. And you can really feel that rear wheel bias because there isn't a whole lot of understeer when taking corners. And then that electronic LSD is constantly putting in work, making you feel like you've got limitless traction, which then enhances your confidence. And then there's the steering. It's kind of perfect. Honestly, I don't like using that word a lot, but I mean, for this kind of car, it honestly feels so, so good. Like I said, very minimal understeer. It's just weighty enough to make you feel like you're actually doing something, but then the feedback is just so precise. And it just gives you that confidence you're looking for. I've taken a lot of SUVs on this road, a lot of really high performance, super powerful SUVs. Quite frankly, This is the most confident I've felt taking an SUV of this size on the, Cars with Miles test track. It just absolutely carves corners. It's unbelievable. And I know the camera's a little shaky this time around, and that kind of just varies from car to car that I film, and there's not really a way to kind of remedy that on camera, so I apologize. But despite it looking kind of wobbly on camera, I must admit that this car is also really comfortable when you want to just take it on back roads and chill, or take it on the freeway and chill, because you have a triple chamber air suspension setup. So the car, despite riding on really big wheels, is very composed, and for the size of the wheels, pretty soft and compliant when you want it to be. But you've got that in addition to an adaptive damper setup and a 48-volt mild hybridized anti-roll bar system. So it just really is super flat in the corners, which is something you don't normally feel in a car of this size. I mean, the Puro Sangue is still probably the most sharp cornering SUV I've ever driven, and that's because it's also significantly lighter than the DBX and most other super SUVs are. It's just a smaller car in general. But for how big and heavy this thing is, it really takes corners beautifully, absolutely beautiful. Normally, I'm all for manufacturers going with bespoke solutions to make the car stand out and feel unique, especially for cars of this price point. But the fact that they decided to go with the 9-speed automatic from the AMGs for the 707 model specifically is a big win. One of the things that I really didn't like about the DB12 was the 8-speed automatic. It just felt a little slushy and at times pretty slow. This feels a lot more responsive and lively. Upshifts and downshifts are a lot more snappy and not super slushy and kind of like, I guess I'll shift. This is a lot, it's not dual clutch quick like, the Puro Sangue. And when you're at speed doing high speed shifting, that's definitely one area where you feel like, yeah, the Puro Sangue, it's just that dual clutch. There's no replacement for it. But you hear that? Just the responsiveness of the gearbox. It's really good, really, really good. And because this is an SUV that you're not necessarily going to be doing, track days with for just fun back road driving, the responsiveness of the gearbox is exactly what I'm looking for, unlike what I felt like was kind of underwhelming in the DB12 that uses the 8-speed ZF torque converter. Oh my God, this thing corners like nobody's business. Driving a car like this really will make you realize, yeah, we can make really good performance cars that aren't hybridized and still have them feel modern and fast enough. Now, compared to like the X5M or the Bentley Bentayga, for example, the cherry on top with this car is the sound. The V8 certainly sounds similar to the AMGs, but a bit more refined. It doesn't have that same kind of like gurgly effect that the AMGs do. It kind of has a slightly more refined, more mature twist on the AMG Turbo V8. And it doesn't do the outrageous cracking and burbling that the Urus does, especially in SE form. That car is probably the best and most fun V8 SUV from a sound perspective. But because I can hear so much of the V8 on throttle and just revving it without it feeling super synthetic like the new AMG V8s do, I'm satisfied and not really missing the constant cracking and popping and burbling. You just get so much sound in general, and that's really what I'm missing in cars like the X5M. That car is just as dead as a doorknob when it comes to sound. This is a lot more lively and fun and really makes you feel like you have a V8. Because a lot of these cars that have the V8s, because of, noise regulations and emissions and stuff like that, they're so quiet. It's just like, what's the point outside of the power? So, handling, check. Sound, check. Good transmission, check. Good steering feel, check. What don't I like about this SUV from a driving perspective? I mean, honestly, there really isn't anything major, to be honest. I honestly can't think of any major dislikes about this car from a driving perspective for what it is. Now, I mean, like I said, it's crazy expensive. You could probably get this up to 400 grand if you ticked every single box and got the most expensive paint. Now, that's before depreciation, because these things absolutely tank on the secondhand market. But I mean, I guess the only real dislike is like, yeah, I mean, if you want to spend 100 grand, 200 grand more, you could buy a pure Sangwe, which is going to get you the best engine and transmission combo in the business as far as an SUV goes. Granted, it's not going to be as fast as this thing, but I mean, it will be equally, if not a little bit more fun in scenarios like this, just because of the soundtrack and how well it feels. You've got a V8 experience that arguably rivals the fun factor of the Lamborghini Urus. You've got driving dynamics that might just be on par with the Ferrari Puro Sangue when you consider how big and heavy this thing is. And then you've got Bentley Bentayga levels of interior quality and class. I mean, the RSQ8 and the Lamborghini Urus and the Cayenne Turbo GT, those cars are cool and built well, but you know, you hit certain buttons, it's like, oh yeah, I've seen that in a Q7. That's another thing, is that this SUV doesn't really have the burden or lack of prestige that comes with platform sharing, which is something that the Cayenne Turbo GT, as good as that SUV is, it's a platform shared car. As much as I love certain aspects of those other super SUVs, I think I gotta crown this one as being the best overall. I think it only makes sense when you consider everything that this car does and how well it does it. Then you step inside the car. Firstly, all four doors have soft close, which is sick. So the door will close itself there. And then look at this carbon, this massive carbon panel here on the door card. This is just something that the other super SUVs are not doing. And obviously it's expensive to get this option, but man, it looks good. And then you have all of the stitching, the blue, the yellow. This is what you should expect when paying this amount of money. We have carbon fiber over the gauge cluster binnacle situation here. So clean. The steering wheel is cool. You have like a kind of like virtual D-pad situation going here where you can switch between, you know, your different displays for CarPlay Ultra, which is debuting with Aston Martin. So when it comes to CarPlay, this car is going to have the best experience of any performance SUV. But the overall build quality, the layout, the design, the fit and finish, everything is really sick. One of my favorite things to do is play with this dial. The tactility. Your seats are heated and ventilated, and the ventilation works really well, especially on a hot day. As soon as you kick it on, you just feel that, whoo, that nice breeze going right up your butt cheeks, which on a hot day is definitely needed. And then with CarPlay Ultra, you don't have to worry about dealing with the built-in Aston Martin infotainment, which still isn't great, all things considered, but it's certainly not bad, and a big improvement over the previous gen DBX. But when you have CarPlay Ultra, you really don't have to utilize the built-in Aston Martin infotainment at all, which is sweet, one of the benefits of having CarPlay Ultra. But yeah, compared to the DB12 that I drove, which I'm now learning was a prototype, like I said, this feels so much more high quality, no creaks or rattles. The speakers, well, I mean, it's a really expensive option. They do sound good. The seats are comfortable yet supportive for spirited driving. The interior does everything I wanted it to do from a tech and infotainment standpoint. The layout is sweet. You've got plenty of storage in the pockets and the door cards and things like that. This is kind of the best overall sport SUV, I must admit. And I'm really glad that I got to try this out, and I kind of, you know, took matters into my own hands as far as acquiring this vehicle, because now I know that Aston Martin for sure is on the right path, which I guessed. I just didn't think the DB12 was necessarily for me. And so maybe what I need to do is re-review that car with a not prototype. Maybe that's what needs to happen. But anyway, I gotta get this back before the neighbors notice it's gone. So I will talk to you guys in the next one.